Hello and welcome back. In this video, I want to move forward in how to gain access to Azure, how to check your account balance in Azure, what's the pricing for DNS services in Azure, where are our data centers located, that what we have a choice and so we want to pick one that's close to us. I want to answer some of those questions and then we'll also create our DNS zone in Azure. To get to Azure, we go to this URL up here, portal.azure.com. When you go there, it's going to prompt you to sign in, and you're thinking, I don't have an account. The NIC main campus and Microsoft Azure have a link. We have an ADFS connection, and because we're a partner with Microsoft, you use your @students.nic.edu email address to log into Azure. It's very convenient. If you have a nic.edu address, that also works just fine. So you would log into Azure the same as you would log into Canvas. Okay. Once you're there, this page is customizable, your dashboard or landing page. The icons on it change based upon what you were last doing or things that you've done. So yours will look a little different. Okay, so that's how you get access to Azure, is portal.azure.com. And all of these links here that I'm going to show you are linked in Canvas. The next thing that I want to talk to you about is that we have to keep track of our budget in Azure. Each of you has been given $100 to use for learning and exploration and these projects, and it's plenty. $100 will do everything we need to do if we keep an eye on it. So there's a link in Canvas that will show you where you can go to check your remaining balance of your $100 credit. You've also look at usage statistics here, and then of course your balance is the page I'm showing. We just have to be conscientious of that, because once you burn through it, then somebody has to pull out a credit card. The next thing that I want to show you is what we're going to do is we're going to host a DNS service in Azure, a DNS zone, and I wanted you to see the pricing structure of that. Okay, it's quite reasonable, I think. We're going to fall under this tier right here, which would be 50 cents per month per zone. We're just going to create initially one zone, and okay, 50 cents a month. But then there's also a queries charge, and that's 40 cents per month up to 1,000,000 queries. So we're good there. So roughly we're talking about 90 cents a month to host your DNS zone in Azure. Okay, 90 cents a month, so pretty reasonable. Just as comparison, it's roughly the same charge to host a DNS zone in Amazon Web Services. The pricing is basically identical. The next thing that we'll have to decide when we go to create our zone is we have to pick which Azure data center we want to host our zone. And this is just a map, and it shows the different zones here. US Central, US West, US West 2. I have to go down a little bit to slide over here. The one that we're going to use is closest to us is US West 2. Okay, that one, I believe that's in George, Washington, just by the Columbia River. Okay, so those are questions that we're going to need to know, is what zone. So you're also going to need to know, what's my child domain name allocation, and I think that's kind of a given, right? I'm AK, my demo machine is HI, and then you each have a 2-character state ID that's been assigned to you. That's what you're going to need to use to create your zone. So let's go ahead and get started then. Okay, you ready? If DNS isn't in your list here, and it probably isn't, then you just come up here to the search box and you just type in DNS. And the one that we're looking for is this one, DNS zones. So you can see here that I don't have any zone currently created. Not a problem. Um, Azure is very forgiving. You just have to realize that everything you do has a price tag to it. Even if it's only a few cents, everything you do has a price tag. But it's very forgiving. So I don't have any zone here, and the way that I go about creating my zone is I come down here to create a new zone. It asks for what subscription, and if you just have most of us, what you'll just see is Azure for Students, and that's correct. That's what we want to use. Now, a resource group it's like a box with which you put resources that you want to be build together into. Like I'm going to go ahead and create a new one here because we don't have any. You don't have any either, I'm pretty sure. So you just go to create new, and that's what it is. It's like it's like a box, or it's some way to kind of identify what resources belong together for the purposes of basically for cost. That's really what it's about. It's about organizing your Azure object. Like say that you've got 100 Azure objects, but they're broken out into, some of them do this for your business, some of them do that for your business. If you want to keep track of how those are, what costs are going with which project, that's a good way to think about it. You create a resource group per project, and that way you can see what the costs are and what resources have been allocated to a project. So I'm just going to call mine AK resource group, and you can name it whatever you like. It is just for, as I said, it's a way to kind of identify all the pieces in a project. Moving down here, it says this zone is a child of an existing zone hosted in Azure. Well, it is a child zone, but it is not a child of a zone that's already in Azure. The parent zone, bobstaco.com, is hosted by Cloudflare, so we do not want to check that box. Now here's the important box. Here's where you put in your AK dot, or excuse me, well, I'm putting in AK, but you put in what's appropriate for you. Okay, this is the magic thing here. And then we go to where would we like it hosted, and I'm going to look for US West 2. There it is. Okay. And that's it. And you think, wow, that is so easy. It is, and it's gotten easier. It has. The initial challenges with Azure were oh, excuse me, I'll interrupt myself before I could create. Just a little bit of a review here before we click create. The initial challenges in Azure for quite a while were just being able to find stuff and navigate stuff and get around, but that's gotten so much better too. And this was created quickly, and I have the option to pin it to my dashboard. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to pin it. Okay. And now if I go to the resource here, this is what it looks like. I know this is very different, but once you get used to it, I think you'll be comfortable. Now over here is what I need. I need you to forward me this information, and all of it. It's a fully qualified domain name, and they are different between between each of us. The nice thing about the way that it's happening now in Azure is that the first part of it is all the same. It's just you get .com, .net, .org, .info. There are other extensions, and so please do copy and paste all of that so that when I do your delegation, that there's no chance that I get it wrong. So once I get this information from you, then I go to the parent zone, which again is hosted in a different cloud provider, and I create. Actually, the delegation is there from the past, but I update it. I update the delegation for your two character state to point to this. This is how it knows. So those are fully qualified domain names, but of course they translate into IP addresses. So that's how your server now fits below bobstaco.com servers, because Bob's Taco knows to forward requests for your state to one of those fully qualified domain names, and that's how the pieces come together. The other thing that we want to do here is we want to add a resource record. I want to show you how that's done. And up there at the top, let me go ahead and clean up my screen here. Up here at the top, we just go to record set. And this is one of the things that we have to get used to, is that some of the terminology is different between like Windows, like in Windows Server DNS, we don't see the term record set. We don't see that. We see record type. In Linux, you see it a little bit different. In Amazon Web Services, their DNS, which is called Route 53, it's called different, but you just have to poke around a little bit and you can find what you're looking for. So that's the key area to click right there, and then you've got your drop down choices here. Do you want to create an A record, a quad A record? And yeah, the list is good here. Let's go ahead and create an A record. Default time to live, IP address. This is what I'm going to do. First I got to give it a name. I'm going to call it bogus. And then for the IP address, I'm going to say 111.121.112.211. This is just truly a bogus record. It doesn't mean anything. I suppose there is a server in the world with that IP address, but it's just a test record for me. So in other words, once I've got this done, and once I've done the delegation, once you've given me that information, I've done the delegation, I email you back and say that your delegation is done, then you from anywhere on the internet should be able to do like a ping or DNS lookup, or to bogus dot, in this case .ak.bobsocko.com. Now I mentioned ping and DNS lookup. DNS lookup would give a response, but ping would not return anything. If you do www.bogus.bobsocko, you're not going to get a reply back. All we're checking for is that the name can be resolved. Remember, that's the whole job of DNS, is just to take a name and turn it into an IP. And as our project moves forward, we will put real IPs in here and give them names such that you can get to resources from the internet that are inside your project. Let's go ahead and do an IPv6 one, and we'll end with that. So an IPv6 is a quad A, and I'm gonna call this bogus v6. And this one's a little bit harder because you see the number is so long, but I'm gonna do a 22620::1234. I believe that's a valid IPv6 address. See if it accepted it. It did. Now again, those addresses aren't meant to have any real server on the other side of it. This name and this name are just so that I can test DNS that it's working. Pretty cool stuff. All right, I'll wrap up this video, and we'll keep moving forward.